First job is to wet the entire sheet. I'm using my misting bottle, and then I'm using my hand just to scrape it around so that there's no puddles. But you can also feel where there's a lack of water as well while you're doing it. I learned this trick. Only use it if your hand is completely clean. Let's going to start with we're starting with the sky. So I'm going to get some cobalt blue. We don't need the paint too wet because we've got wet paper. And I pull down, so I've got a V. Make sure it goes to the ends and make sure that it's a little bit darker in those corners. That just acts as a stop. And then with the cobalt blue on the palette, just put a little bit of green in with it. So you get a green cobalt blue. And go down the bottom. If you can, tilt it. And then join that up with that, leaving a light white bit. So then flick it up and join into the sky. This is where the bottle comes in. If you don't think that that's quite what you want, give it a little squirt. So I'm just going to make my that white bit there more pronounced. So I've washed out underneath with the squirty bottle. And we need some tissue. And wipe up any excess moisture because there'll be quite a bit. So I'm just going across the tape. So as it seems right smack in the middle, as usual, because I can't help but do that, I've got my light. I suppose it might be a little bit more over to one side than smack in the middle, but we're going to do the waves. So I've got quite a thick mist of this colour down here and very little water. And I'm going to put in some waves, make them curved. Some going that way, some going the opposite way. If they're disappearing and blending into the paint that's already on there, which is quite possible, mix a little bit stronger, a little bit thicker paint so that you get it to stay in one place. You're going to get the edges disappearing, but you'll get, and then just lightly go into the white bit, not strong as and big as the bottom ones. These can be quite big. And you can go a little bit up there. So changing to the smaller brush and using the paint that we mixed up for the waves, well, ripples. I'm going to start the tree. Small small brush, come from there and just be a bit wild with your tree. And then using the side of your brush, do some undergrowth. You have to go over your man a bit. And out to the boat. Go round that boat. Prow. So, and just add a little bit more Payne's grey, or a little bit of Payne's grey to the, and just touch in some dark at the bottom there. And you can even just put some neat in, and just whilst it's still wet, just put some darker bits in, smaller maybe. Then back to the same color as your tree trunks, which was green and the cobalt blue. And with your little brush, using the side, just scuff it. Dry brushing, scuff it. I'm just pushing it upwards. I'm being quite harsh to the brush. You do need a little bit of water on. It's just a higgledy-piggledy tree, really. And with a little bit of Payne's grey, before it gets too, just go in and underneath some of them, give it some shadows. Maybe just the light's coming from the left, so I'm just doing a bit of a darker side to the tree trunks with a little bit of Payne's grey. Just to make it look as if the sun's shining or something. And whilst you've got the Payne's grey on the go, you could do these poles. I've got 2 poles. And you can make that's it with that. So switching to the liner brush, I'm going to get some neat Payne's grey on the liner and put some birds in. Whilst we're waiting for that to dry, I just put them in the lightest part of the sky. I've just gone over my posts. Oh, and with the Payne's grey, you need a bit of a rope from that boat's edge to the post. very thin. And if you've still got some of that green left, you can just do one or two wispy bits of grass. Make some tall, make some short. Okay, so we'll wait for that to dry, and I'm going to get my boat and my brush. I'm going to have a sort of a reddy browny boat, so a bit of red knocked back with a bit of cobalt blue, maybe, so that it's not bright red. Mucky red, I think it'd be called. And I am, in fact, that's probably more mucky than I want. I mean, there's enough. And in with the boat. Whilst it's still wet, get a little bit of Payne's grey and just dot that in place. It's not all over, just to give it a bit of a mucky feel. And they're always more mucky towards the bottom, so you could actually just do a Payne's grey bottom of the boat, which is quite nice because then you can go straight into some reflections. You've got reflections that actually meet the boat, and then you've got some that have got little bits of unpainted paper. You might need to do this with a very thin brush, or and just wiggle those in. Just wiggle. And it starts off with solid colour, then it goes with little white bits, and then there's more white bits than dark bits, and then you can just wiggle some as the water moves and the reflections are taken away. We're going to do the posts, and again it's a wiggle, so it's a broken line, and with the same thing, the trees. Now the trees don't have to be a mirror image, so I'm just pulling it down like that, and then there's one coming down there, one there, there's one coming up there, and there's one coming over there. And if you've got a absolutely clean soft brush, you can just very lightly brush across the reflections, and it just drags the paint a little and softens it back. So that's your main reflections. We've now got to do the reflections of the grass and that on the bank. So I'm painting a line, and then I'm getting my finger and I'm just pulling down. That's tall there, so I'm reflecting, I'm mirroring that, and that's tall. So I'm just using my finger. And I'm just reflecting the, the foliage a bit in the water and just wiping it to the side with my finger on that. Back to a liner, more Payne's grey. Right, I'm making that's the back of the boat, that's the top, and there's and then you've got the other side of the boat coming just above it. So it's actually three-dimensional. And I'm going to tackle the chap using the same red, or maybe just a little bit more red in that, just brighten up a bit. I'm going to do, there's his t-shirt. I think he's practicing Tai Chi again. That's quite a dark red. Never mind. Then with Payne's grey, give him some hips and then his legs. And then you have to decide whether he's walking away from you or towards you. If he's walking towards you, just give him a half circle of hair on that head. And I'll let you have a little bit of orange just to paint his face and his arms that come out the side of the t-shirt. I don't know what he's doing. Looks like he's leaning against the tree. And with the liner and a little bit of that greeny colour, just in the water, underline some of those dark marks that were the waves, and then just smudge them with your finger. Just to reinforce the shadow of join those two up there. And these that went off up to the side of the boat and that have got a little bit lost. So you can just redo them, just smudge them with your finger. And then, of course, because our little chap isn't a vampire, we need to have him reflected. So do his legs. Then his t-shirt. Get that brush again and just wipe it to the side. Perhaps you can do his head. Just wipe it to the side very gently, and that's all we need. He's there now. You could put some lines to show that the boat is planking. If you wish. And that's about it. We've got the chap. Those my reflection of my posters disappeared a bit, and that one. So I'm just going over that. I'm just smudging it with my finger. we've got some grasses there. So put those in. You can make your boat a little bit brighter in the middle there, if you wish, and just giving it a little bit more red there. Leave over to the right as dark because that's where the light is not. And that's it.